This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the #1 website platform for entrepreneurs. These are the two new lenses that Blazar announced for their Mantis full-frame anamorphic line. All right, the 25mm t2.4 and the 100mm t2.4. Over the summer, I purchased the 3-lens set from them, including the 35, 50, and 75mm for the Lumix S1 II that I've been using for all of my videos. Now, full disclosure, these two lenses were sent to me to keep in exchange for a product showcase.
Now, I would say the biggest reason for getting into anamorphics is simply because I just want a different look. I shoot a lot of videos, but everything looks the same, right? So that's why I got into them. And I'm gonna show you an example. All right, I set up this quick scene here. So I have this light going directly into the lens, creating a lens flare. And I have this tube light to create some short lighting on me. The biggest headache so far is with manual focus lenses, and shooting myself is achieving focus all on my own. It's been so tough. You know, the things that you do for a better image, you know, it's one of those sacrifices. All right, so shooting this on the 25 Mantis, all right, I'll tell you what, this lens only weighs 670 grams. It's a very lightweight lens for what it is, the full frame lens. I would say the majority of the weight on the S1 II is the MoFage adapter that I'm using. That sucker, it's heavy, but overall the lens is pretty compact. And I would say the most jarring part about using this lens is the barrel distortion. I was not ready for that, all right? This gives you around like a roughly 18, 19mm equivalent when we're talking about a spherical. Look at how everything just distorts. Very jarring. Now, one thing that makes this lens special is the minimum focusing distance, right? I know a lot of anamorphic lenses, they don't have a good minimum focusing distance because they prioritize all the other things. But this one has a minimum focusing distance of 1.25 feet. So let's see here if I could. All right, so this lens can focus, look at this, I'm right up to the lens. And combining the T2.4 with this extremely wide angle and the minimum focusing distance without using any diopters, like you can get some really interesting shots when you use this lens and put things right up close, right up to it. Now, one thing that really surprised me about this lens is the focus breathing control. Now look, that's infinity. Look at that. Not bad.
When it comes to flares on a 25mm, I would say that this one is the stingiest out of all the other lenses, right? Compared to the 35, the 50, 75, 100, I find it harder to get some nice flares out of this lens than any other lens. The 25mm is one of the sharper lenses out of the entire set. If you have a strong light source in the frame, you're gonna get this sort of halation effect, almost as if you're using a mist filter. And for the good old iPhone flashlight test, you can see that it's barely causing a flare. You're gonna need a relatively strong light source.
Now this is the Mantis 100mm T2.4, weighs a little bit more than the 25, so this one weighs 770 grams. I like this lens way more than I thought I was because this is an absolute flare monster. I'm gonna just switch, let me switch to it. Thank you. Okay, all right, now we're shooting on the 100mm. And look at how beautiful this frame is. The dreamy quality to the background, you get this beautiful subject separation.
Now, I personally think that the 100mm is really going to be loved by those who crave a more creative and stylized look rather than a clinical one. I think that this lens stands out of the entire set for the character, for the flaws. You know, this lens isn't very sharp wide open. It doesn't control focus breathing very well. And it definitely goes heavy on those rainbow arc flares.
Just like that, just like that.
Just no smiling.
Forever's never gone so fast.
The 100mm is definitely the most polarizing lens out of the set. Like I said, it's not super sharp in the middle, and even on the edges and the bottom of the frame, you can see there's a softening effect, like a little smearing effect going on. You can see that it does have some pin cushion distortion going on. You know, the flares go crazy on this one, which might turn off those who want a cleaner image. You know, you'll see how it reacts to a stronger light source entering the frame. It already starts to flare up pretty bad, and then when the flashlight test, well, you get those prominent rainbow flares. My natural reaction is that, well, this is a negative thing, right? But I know that I have seen movies that have been shot with these lenses. I've seen this effect be used before in movies. So that's why I say this is more of a creative lens than the other ones in the lineup.
Hey, excuse me? It's 2025. It's time to finally start a website with Squarespace, all right? So now if you want to start a website, blog, or online store, say less. I've been using Squarespace for years now, and I don't think you realize how easy and intuitive it is to use. You can grab your own custom domain and build a site that's professional without needing a single coding or design skill. And I'm talking zero tech knowledge required. With Design Intelligence, it'll help you create a site that's unique to you and your brand. I recently started my off-camera flash mini course using Squarespace and setting everything up. Even as a first timer, I felt like I had a personal designer do all the hard stuff for me. Now, if you're interested in making some side hustle money, you can create an online store like I did and make money while you sleep. So if you've been waiting for the right moment to start, this is it. You get 10% off your first purchase if you use the coupon code Manny.
Now, out of the other lenses, I would say my most used is the 35mm T2. I just think that it has the perfect balance of character and clean optics, right? It's sharp. There's very little, there's a little distortion on the edges of the frame. It's an easy lens to get flares on. And I don't know, again, it just has the most versatile focal length for content creation and filming myself. The 50mm T2. Now this one just gives off such a beautiful image. Again, very little distortion on the edges, very sharp. If you want more isolation and subject separation than the 35, the 50 makes sense, and it's really easy to use on your own. You don't need an assistant to help you with focusing. Now the 75 T2. Now I haven't used this lens much myself because it's just hard to use it when you're doing everything on your own, but this is the perfect portrait focal length if you want to get that anamorphic look, right? You get very minimal distortion. It's very sharp and it flares like crazy. As you see the tube light, as I'm getting close to the frame, it starts to flare. Really nice character, and it's much more tame than the 100mm. The 100, again, it's very jarring. There's a lot. You can get some really creative looks out of it, but if you need something that's cleaner, the 75 is the way to go. So my initial impressions of the Mantis Anamorphic set, I'm glad I picked these up over the Remus simply because they are for full frame, and it's just easier to get those dreamy shots with more background blur, and it just makes more sense using on the Lumix S1 II, where I can take full advantage, using the open gate recording. Now, part of Blazar's marketing is that you can get a 2x anamorphic look with these lenses. And even though I understand the concept of 2x, but because I don't have a point of comparison, and at the end of the day, diving into the technicalities of these types of lenses is extremely nuanced and complicated. So I've learned. I have no desire to dive into all that. So you're going to have to be the judge of that. Now, all I know is that the image coming out of these lenses it's badass. You know, these lenses are relatively cheap, compact, and, you know, so far I'm a pretty big fan. I'm here hoping that they come out with some autofocus variants in the future.